Yeah, hey everybody. Welcome to the 12th TouchDesigner Roundtable here at the Node Institute. Very happy to see you all here, old and new faces. And we're going to have 3 presentations today, and because some presenters come remotely, we're going to try to stick to the time grid today. So we're going to start with Dániel Molnár. He's a real-time audiovisual interactive artist with a background in software development and music production, and he will talk about the most recent installation he worked on, a charity fitness event created with the creative studio Hybrid Xperience. Daniel, thank you very much for coming and showing your work to us. And without further delay, I would give you the stage.
Hi everyone, let me set up quickly my slideshow. Am I sharing my screen? Yeah, cool. So, hey everyone, I'm Dániel Molnár, also known as Function Store, and today I'm going to talk about my very recent installation. I did this 2 weeks ago. And it's an interactive fitness event, all done in TouchDesigner. Why I brought this in front of you today is because this was my first kind of bigger project involving sensors and multiple displays, and I hope I can share some insight to anyone who faces like a similar project in the future and how to get started with it and what steps I took. Also something to note that for this thing I had 2 weeks to design or to develop, so it was a very rapid development. So yeah, let's get to it. It won't be very artistic. It's going to be more technical stuff, but I hope you can learn some things, and I can also learn some things from you, maybe. I'm sure. So a small section about me. So I come from Hungary. I've been living here in Berlin for 2 years. I have a background in software development. I've been doing that for 8 years, now fully into TouchDesigner. I first worked as an embedded software engineer, then I did some DSP stuff with audio, and also some Python, audio-related Python job. I enjoy making music, as most of you, I guess, and yeah, started it with TouchDesigner 2 years ago. Before that, I was working in After Effects and Milkdrop 2, the Winamp visual engine. I don't know if anyone knows or has used it. Maybe hands up if you know Milkdrop. No? Okay, it's super cool. Check it out. Yeah, I like to develop 3D components, doing some YouTube stuff and workshops. You can find me as Function Store online. And I've been working with this company called Hybrid Xperience for the past year, doing interactive installations and all that. Also a few words about them. So they are an experiential technology company dealing with arts and technology, doing immersive experiences, 3D projection mapping, real-time interactive stuff, holograms also. They are based in Dubai. They are very cool and very agile and lots of things to do with them. So I like working with them. They reached out, as I said, 2 weeks before the installation of this thing. So a lot of how I approached it was based on this, that it was just a super short time to do it. And what I started with, a few words about the project itself. So it's a charity event. It's a charity fitness event in Saudi Arabia. And the donation that this company that Hybrid was working with is going to be based on the distance that people have covered, the virtual distance that they have covered on 4 bikes and 4 stepper machines. Each fitness machine has a screen in front of it, and we're going to do we did some reactive, like speed reactive visuals to show the people how fast they were going, and also show the data to them. And there was also a bigger screen for the cumulative data. In the beginning, I was given very little information about what machines we're going to have and about the whole system. So a lot of the design was guess based and trying to prepare for the worst and trying to just be very modular with the design and just as I said, prepare for the worst. In total, there were 3 events. I'm gonna show some videos. 3 events. I was only there for the first one, and the last 2 events I helped with online, remotely. You can see some people using the steppers here. I think it's gonna be the same video for some reason. Here are the bikes. On the right, you can see the main screen with the cumulative data. I was surprised how many people actually did the thing. It was a 10-minute cycle or a 10-minute activation period, and people did the full 10 minutes, a lot of them. So really props to them. Here's a little bit more about the setup itself. So we are starting inside the main screen booth. So what you can see around is the LED controllers. We have 3 laptops running TouchDesigner. This one is for the bikes, this is the main one, and this one is for, oops, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. So yeah, one for the bikes, one laptop for the bikes, one for the main screen, and one for the steppers. And if we step out, we will see the main screen in a short while. It was in a big mall. Actually, it was a nice place. So if you step on this stepper and you start doing your workout, it's gonna do a countdown and show you some visuals together with some data. And if we look at the other side, is the bikes, same deal. You start biking and it's gonna show some visuals, and it's gonna send the data to the main screen, to the main laptop. So the first thing to do, so the first thing I did was system design to kind of get the whole idea of the whole system and what components there are, what interfaces I'm going to be dealing with, how to connect them, and as in doing so, you start thinking about the whole system, and problems problems just reveal themselves, kind of, as you go along. I will open the document briefly to show you the thing itself. So I usually start with some text to give context to the whole document. Then I immediately dive into making some diagrams, because they really help a lot to understand the whole system. So as I said, we're dealing with 4 bikes. They don't have any sensors built into them. They of course have their own interface, their own display, but you cannot really, or maybe you can, but I didn't think about it. Maybe there's like some pulse data that you can get out of the machine itself, but we didn't really have time, and we didn't even know what kind of machine we were going to be using. So immediately I just thought, okay, let's just do our own sensoring. And what we ended up with was a magnetic sensor put on the bike's tires, and that's connected to an Arduino. That's going into a USB hub into TouchDesigner on a serial port. So we're going to be sending the pulse information through the Arduino to TouchDesigner. There's 4 of them, and then also there's 4 screens for each machine, and we have to display the content there. And there's also an Ethernet out to the main display, which is going to be cumulating the data and showing the cumulated data. So yeah, I started with drawing this kind of diagram to get an understanding for myself and also for the client and team members, so that we have something to talk about. Similar deal with the steppers. I'm going to show the censoring a bit later, and then how we connect all the components together. So group 1 would be the bikes, group 2 would be the steppers, and this is the main media server, which is connected to the main display, and there's an Ethernet switch through which we connect all these together. I had 2 scenarios in mind, because we didn't know what the main media server would be, or it would be a main media server, or would it be a laptop. So if it was something that we have full control of course we can run TouchDesigner on that one. This shows that case, but I also had another case in mind where we cannot run TouchDesigner on the main server, so we only send NDI video stream to that server, and one of the laptops would then act as the master or the main TouchDesigner instance, accumulating all the data. So we would only send the video stream to the main one. This is something that I prepared for. And then immediately the first thing to tackle was the censoring of the equipment. So initially we started with the idea that we would have actual bikes there, not fitness machines, but propped up bikes. So that's what I started with. You might have seen similar things on bikes, like retrofitted with speed sensors, where you have something here and a magnet on the rims, I believe, or I don't know how they are called. So we went with this design, and then for the steppers, it's also similar construction, that we put a magnet on the moving part and the sensor to a fixed position. So this is what the idea was, and it's actually close to what we ended up with. Some words about the video, how we put out the 4 video streams. So if I scroll back here, from the TouchDesigner laptop, there's a few options. We had some video wall controller like datapath, FX4, which is like kind of the standard in this, or MST hub, which is a what was DP? Wait. DisplayPort, of course, yeah. So DisplayPort 1.2 feature called MST, multi-stream transmit or something like that, and it's basically through one mini DisplayPort you can output to up to how many streams your GPU allows you to do, which is usually 4. Or we could go with a machine that already has 4 GPU outputs. We ended up going with the MST hub. So it's a very small device. It looks like this. You just plug it into one DisplayPort and you can output 4 other DisplayPort streams out of it, and it's going to show up as separate displays on your laptop or your machine. And we also had to use HDMI converters because the TVs were HDMI. This was pretty low cost. As you can see, it's 135 euros for this thing, and then for the converters, 15 each. In hindsight, this wasn't the right choice. Maybe for cost, it could be the right choice, but it was very finicky to set up, because Windows, I guess, like that just display management is not always the best. We were sometimes dropping streams, and sometimes, like for the first installation, we could plug all the four monitors into this device, and all 4 just showed up right away. But for the others, for some reason, we could only plug in 3 into this MST hub, and then the last one we had to plug in directly to the HDMI port of the laptop, which is fine, which was a very cool workaround. But yeah, maybe in the future I would probably go with the video wall controller. The only difference in that case would be that you have to output a bigger texture. So for, like, if you are dealing with four displays, you would output 4 times the display resolution, and then the video wall controller would then slice up those streams and output to 4 different displays. But yeah, this in the end it was okay, but maybe for the future I wouldn't go with it. So back to the sensors. Yeah, so what the system design gives us is an overview. In the end, it gives us an equipment list and a reference point for discussion. Yeah, also worth to mention what laptops we were using. It was HP Omen 16 with RTX 3060. This was the early stages of development in my room, using my flatmate's bike propped up. It was very convenient to have his like a floating station device thingy. And this is what we ended up with. This is the stepper machine, and we just hid the sensor here. This is a Hall sensor, a magnetic Hall sensor here. And the magnet is then, you can see the white, this white tape thingy. That's the magnet. And on the right you can see the bikes. So we just put the Hall sensor up to the frame, and then the bike ended up a normal like fitness machine bike, and thankfully it had an open spinning wheel that we could put the magnet on. Otherwise it would have been a bit more troublesome, but thankfully it was there. The Arduino code itself was very simple. Basically just taking the time between the triggers of the magnetic sensor and transmitting the time difference between the triggers. So from that we can estimate a speed, and from that we can also estimate a distance that somebody is traveling. But this is a very short code, and it works for both machines because we are only sending the time difference, nothing more. I'm gonna dive into the TouchDesigner page, but I really like this from the TouchDesigner shitposting forum, and it really resonated with me, and it's something that I wanted to avoid to end up on the right side. Because I knew I had to patch some stuff on there, because the client's vision wasn't really clear how they want to deal with everything. It was clear that when I'm there, I will have to talk to them and figure out stuff together and immediately make changes. So I'm gonna dive into the TD patch. There's 2 project files. One is for both the bike and the steps, the bikes and the steps. This is because I wanted to just work in one project for both cases, because they're very similar. Same sensoring, same display, same visuals, so it really made sense. And also for the last event, the third event, we were only using 2 bikes and 2 steppers. So in that case, we could just use one laptop instead of separate laptops for the bikes and the steps. So it was a good modular design, I think. And one thing I want to show you in this project is this elements container. It contains basically clone masters. So I don't know if you are familiar with cloning. You basically take a container or like a base or whatever, and if you clone that base component, all the changes are going to be reflected in the clone as well. So it's like a clone. And I started putting together all the UI elements and all the things that I'm going to actually use in the actual components that I'm going to be doing with the steppers and the bikes. And I started doing just very basic stuff, speed, distance, all this. The visuals itself is based on one of Billiam's tutorials. And in the end, I ended up with a list of these elements that I'm going to be using later on. And if we look into the bikes, for example, here's the 4 bikes. I'm going into the first one. Here you can see all the clones being imported here. And why I did it this way? Because I knew I had to do some stuff on the spot. And if I go into the elements again, so this is the master elements that are getting cloned for each bike and stepper instance. I made this component that if I drag this, for example, drag this kilometer per hour display and set it as the component, I can turn the cloning off. So while the event is ongoing and this is displaying the speed already, I can go into this component, change some stuff, maybe change the text to something else, you know, kilometers per second maybe. And then if I go back to the bikes, for example, it's gonna still show the kilometers per hour because I disabled the cloning. So this thing is going on. I can work in my elements container, work on the separate elements just detached from the actual ongoing installation, just work out my issues here. And then if I re-enable this cloning, then it goes out to the real world, so to speak. So it's a detached kind of instance of things that I found really useful. So you might ask what kind of things they asked for, like what changes that I had to do in this way. They were very basic in the end, something to do with the UI elements. I put some background, for example, behind the text, and they wanted to remove that, which was, you know, an easy change, but this way it was safe. I could just detach myself from the actual ongoing installation and just work in my own kind of universe here. So this was very useful in the end. The measurement itself, so for the bikes, as I said, we are getting the time difference. Now we are not having any serial data coming in, but we would just get the time difference between the triggers in milliseconds, and we have to convert that all to meters per kilometer per hour and meters. And something that I had to deal with is that we have to fake everything basically, because it's a fitness machine. There's no actual distance covered. There's no actual speed. But I started the whole development with the mind, with the actual bike in mind, that we would have an actual bike, maybe on rollers or something. So in the end, I had to fake a lot of things in regards to speed and distance. And I also created this debug component here that would basically send the same data that I will expect from the sensors themselves. So like sending a number in a set pulse, and also sending a pulse whenever the number is updated, to test the whole thing, because I had to do that before the sensors arrived. So that's about that. I will actually go into one of the bikes. So here from the measurement we get the kilometers per hour. There's an averaging going on and the distance calculation, and an activation flag basically that would for if you stop for 15 seconds, then it becomes inactive. And this active flag is driving the whole sequence of the show, so to speak. So if I now turn on this debug, it's gonna count down. Oh, by the way, I removed all the branding stuff. That's why it shows logo A and logo B and nothing fancy. But in the end, I can test the whole thing with this debug switch. If I turn this off, and after 5 seconds, it should go into the results screen, and then it will go into some logo, and all this is run or like driven by this sequence component. And here we have the whole sequence defined in the elements, actually. So I'm here referencing the elements, this table sequence, telling us how long the countdown will be, the activity, the results, the animation. And then what I found really useful was the fan shop. I think this was the first time I was using the fan shop, because in the end we could only get the timer's sequence. So this is of course driving a timer. We could only get the sequence number, but I wanted something more descriptive. So I ended up using the fan shop, which gave us only one is going to be active at one time. So depending on which segment is active. And yeah, I was surprised how cool the fan shop is for the first time in my life. I'm just grabbing this column basically and converting these numbers to different channels based on these names and based on the current segment that we are in.
Speaking of segments,
Yeah.
we're already 20 minutes in.
Oh, okay. All right. How much longer I have? Like 5?
And if you could, like, in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so in the end, we are met with the currently active sequence segment, and that's going to drive the composite, which uses all the UI elements above. So in the composite, I can enable a different one. And yeah, this is how we drive the show basically. And something else I wanna show is how we send all the data to the main TouchDesigner instance. So everything happens through OSC. In the end, we are sending the active signal, the kilometers per hour, the average, and the distance and the money for each machine. And that's pretty simple. That just gets sent through OSC to the other TouchDesigner instance, which I'm gonna open now. And here we are getting the data from OSC for the bikes and for the steppers. They are on different ports. And then, sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. So we're getting all the data in 5 channels, depending on the data, or sorry, 4 channels because there's 4 bikes, and we are accumulating all the incoming data to one sum, which we are then displaying on a very simple visual. That's yeah, here we are displaying this in a it looked much better there with actual graphics, but we are displaying this here on the main screen. And one very cool thing that I realized is how we're gonna drive, or how we're gonna change the parameters if I'm not there, for example, for the last two shows. So I created these very simple parameter windows. In the end, on the left, we can see the main TouchDesigner instances parameter window. On the right, only the steps or the bikes, whichever is active. So this is running on separate laptops, these two. And in the end, I only put stuff here that's really relevant for setting up the bikes and the steppers, which would be the COM port, the serial COM port, where we are getting the triggers from, and the display index of the output. Same for the steppers. And everything else I wanted to control from one single laptop, from the main laptop. So every other parameter is only visible here. For example, the wheel radius, the distance money multiplier, the meters per revolution. Also for the steppers, the step distance, also the money multiplier here. So everything I wanted to drive from just one window. I didn't want to touch 3 laptops at the same time, only one. And the way I set this up is okay. Yeah. So the way I set this up is that I created this this Oscar, I call it, component, and I put all the relevant parameters here that are going to be mapped to each of the bikes or the steppers or everywhere else. But I created this component here, and what I did was just copy and paste this onto the other component, the other project, and there I set this to sender. The other one is the receiver. So the main one is sending all the data. So if I change a parameter here, here in the timing, it also changes. So I change it back to 2, and it's very easy to set up. Just copy paste this component there. No extra work needed. So in the end, I was only using this display, this parameter display. I think, yeah, I'm probably gonna upload this to the OLIB. What I'm working on is actually adding another button here to generate a TouchOSC template project file immediately, displaying all these tabs and the parameters, and it would be just one click. You click on it, and it's on your phone already, and you can just walk around and go anywhere. Yeah, it's pretty close to completion, I would say. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, in case of time, I would like to.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's probably a good idea if I relay the questions from the chat first. So because the audience can ask in person. The first question by Masha is, why using separate machines for steppers and bikes? Is it because of 9 screens HD res, which is higher than max GPU resolution?
Yeah, hi Masha, first of all. Yeah, the reason is because the GPU can only output to 4 displays usually. So we are dealing with 8 + 1 displays, and that's why we were using 2 laptops, and also because of just the load of the audiovisuals. So already it was running 30 FPS, I think, outputting all the displays from one machine. So if we just had to run all 8 from one laptop, that would have probably not worked so well.
And I got another question by Markus Ziegler. How long did you have from first idea to the show, and were you alone or a team? So
yeah, I had 2 weeks, roughly. And I was mostly working on the technical details alone in the end. Yeah, the team members were helping more with logistics and actually there on the spot to set up the installation. Yeah, it was really cool to have them.
So, yeah, I think we have 5 more minutes for questions from the audience.
How long did each show go for? Was it like more than a day every time, or?
So they were running for roughly 5 hours, I think, or 4 hours each day. And in total, I'm actually not sure. I think in total they did like 400 kilometers or something through the whole event. Yeah, and we ran into some issues through the show. mostly having to do with the serial communication. I wanted to mention this. Sometimes some sensors were just dropping out of the whole system, so we're not getting any data from some sensors, but they were usually isolated to just one machine. It could be maybe because of cabling or something else, I don't know. But the solution was pretty easy: just unplug, deactivate the serial communication in TouchDesigner, replug, and then reactivate. Yeah.
I was wondering, when you were developing, did you have like 2 or 3 TouchDesigner patches, or did you build it all in one and then just disabled the parts which were not relevant for the machine?
I was running two as I was showing here, just 2 projects in the end. Yeah. What you see is what you get in this case.
If we don't have questions from the audience, I have another question from the chat from Masha again. The question is, did you use remote desktop software for off-site setup?
Yes, I was, but it was very unreliable, unfortunately, because of 3G coverage or something. So a lot of times I wasn't able to immediately go into action if they needed me. But because of the layout of the parameter window, I could just tell them, just click this, click that, unplug this, unplug that. So it didn't really cause much issue in the end. But yeah, it was available at times. And yeah, the two events, the 2 last events went down pretty easily, thankfully. So there wasn't much intervention needed from my side.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dániel. ist denn ein Spickzettel? Okay, welcome back to the next round of the TouchDesigner Roundtable at the Node Institute. And maybe at this occasion I want to say that everybody is really invited to also present something here. It can be anything, work in progress, doesn't have to be, could be artistic, could be technological, could be philosophical. We're really open for anything, but of course it's the talks who make the thing entertaining and interesting. And so please, if you ever feel like you want to talk to the community, drop me a line, and we're going to do this now every month. And the next person that answered to this call is Yves Peitzner from Studio Tisch. They're based in Munich, and he will remote in from Munich. And he teamed up with the guys from YFX Lab. You may know Tim and Roy Gerritsen, who are very active members of the community and great developers. And they teamed up to create a library of interactive content from the community, stuff that's already there and that maybe should find a second life with clients. And Yves is going to introduce that idea to us. And I'm very curious what he has to say.
Hi, guys. Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there in person, but we have some install going on at the moment, so unfortunately I have to do this remotely. But I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much, Stefan, for inviting us to the roundtable. And we created Beams, it's called. It's an interactive library together with Studio YFX. And I decided not to do like this classic presentation stuff with like keynotes or whatever, because we've done it too many times lately. And I just gonna freestyle a little bit with you, if that's okay with you guys. And so maybe a little bit of background, how we got into the TouchDesigner world. For me, it's been like about, I think it's 3 years. Actually, Stefan was my first teacher. I went to a TouchDesigner workshop. It was in Geneva, I believe. And I drove there from Munich. And this was the first time I sort of got into the software. And as you all know, it's a fantastic software. And it's been quite a ride since then, since about 3 years. I'm gonna introduce Studio Tisch, which is my company. So basically, I come from classic film production, really. And I have done many years advertising, doing TV ads and all this kind of stuff. And about 10 years ago, I went out of it to pursue a career in, I would say, rather storytelling in space. So what I do is, I'm a creative director. I work mostly in spatial design, in the sense of making interactive installations. That was something which always interested me. Since I come from film, you know, there was storytelling on the screen, and I was always very interested to take the storytelling out of the screen into space somehow. And I love the idea of interactivity and to, you know, create either commercial pieces or art pieces where the audience is actually the protagonist in a sense. And I also love the way of chance somehow, you know, as you probably all know, creating interactive installations of some sort, that the people do whatever they do, and there's something you can never presume. You always think about, you know, you can make an installation which is interactive, and people start doing something you never expected, and that's actually something I really, really like. And coming from the more a commercial background in a sense, doing advertising. I really try to get away from that and move into immersing people into that. My first idea was to, if you do advertising, for a brand or something, you do a TV ad, people look at it and, nobody wants to see advertising at all anyways. And, but my thought was, okay, what can you do to really create an emotion for a brand? And that's usually experiences, right? So in an experience, you, if it's something simple like you see a musician on the street and it gives you emotions, and you don't forget these things. Anything you experience, anything amazing, you don't forget. So that was my change in careers in a way. So I thought, okay, trying to create experiences for people, which brings them into a slightly different moment, just for a short time, is enough. And I figured that if you can, transport that to brands, that would be a great way. So this was my start, anyways. And I cut a long story short, I created a Studio Tisch with my partner Jelena. She can't be here right now, unfortunately. We met in New York. I'm a freelancer also, so I work with many studios around the world who hire me as a creative director to do experiential design stuff. I may just share my screen now so you can just introduce you to what we've done. Can you see the screen now? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is Make Tisch. Tisch is an acronym for Technology, Imagination, Spaces, and Humans. And we create, spatial sculptures or installations. This one here, for example, is something, that's why I'm here in Munich, because we're just installing this. I'm gonna show you in a second also a little progress of this. So we created this, it's a thing called Kunst am Bau in Germany or in Europe. Every building or every official building is built. There's always a certain percentage of budget which has to be spent on art. So that's why you see many public buildings, some art installations somewhere. And this was during the pandemic. Our studio, unfortunately, had a rough time, I guess, since many of you can also understand that. And we started to think about, okay, what can we do in that time? And we started to apply for these Kunst am Bau projects, which are official things. Everybody can apply for that. And this one was for the Helmholtz-Zentrum in Munich. And it's just a research center for diabetes. So any sort of illness for environmentally caused things is the Helmholtz-Zentrum. They're like a big company. And they were building a new building, and we applied for this competition. And in the end, we won, luckily. And so what our idea was, because they have this courtyard of the building, which you can see here, which is in real relatively ugly. And they said, well, we would love to have something which makes this place a little bit nicer. And of course, what we did is to create this kind of a structure. It's called Garden of the Forking Paths. The structure is based on a Hilbert curve. And we wanted to create something which uses the research, what they do in this institution. In this case, it's diabetes research. So we created an installation which has two parts, basically. One is the structure, or one is the sculpture, which you can see here. And the other one is we wanted to create an AI system of text, which takes 19th century poets. We had 10 different poets of the 19th century, and trained them on this AI system, on a GPT-2 system. And then we took 1,500 research papers they have done on the last 15 years in the Helmholtz Center. And basically, we made the system create poems out of these research papers, because we wanted to have something for the people who work there and have basically appreciate their work, but make it into poems, because scientific research papers are always a very dry subject. And we wanted to see if there can be any emotions in there, and also make a machine do that. So that's a short kind of thing. And so we created this installation here, and here's some renderings of the space. And I can show you something which just recorded a few days ago. So basically, this is the reality of things. This is just still the setup, some tests and so on. So we created this specially made structure, and the content is actually made with TouchDesigner, in the sense of how we create the text and everything. We have tons of text. That we have like 1,000 poems which go there, you know, through the structure all the time. And just to give you a short idea. Then we are collaborating with the guys from YFX, Tim and Roy Gerritsen. I'm sure you all know them. They also work very closely with Derivative. And we, in the pandemic time, to be honest, we lost a lot of jobs in the pandemic times. And we got together with Roger and Tim and Roy, and decided to make a sort of strategic alliance. And we worked on quite a few projects in the meantime. We developed our own projects, which is Beams, which I will come to in a second. And and we created, for example, you can check it out on the website. I won't bore you with this right now. This is BMW. We did this project in China with Roy and Tim, which was a project with our partners over there for BMW. And we used data from their production plant and created them into visuals, and also made them interactive. I'm just going to show this. It's a very short clip. All done in TouchDesigner, of course. So the idea was there to use data from the production plant and all the robots, especially the robots, which would weld things together and so on, and had their data, and which would inform the movement. If nobody's standing in front of it and somebody is standing in front of it, we had a Kinect camera there, and then the people could control basically the visuals. And this was the idea was to have the symbiosis of machine and humans basically. And Studio Tisch does also other projects like this. For example, it was for Instagram. We did. I did this as a creative director for a studio called Hush in New York, which was for the company Instagram, to make a permanent installation in their entrance lobby. So this is basically splitting up the screen, if you will, using curated Instagram content in the lobby, which will then be displayed in this installation. And it's also interactive with touch, so you could actually touch each column, and it would reveal more content and so on. And then we do other stuff, like this is a hotel in Munich. We did a permanent installation there, which features the Munich sky. It's actually not so interactive in that sense, but it's a very meditative installation where we filmed the Munich sky from the roof of this hotel over 1 year. And yeah, had a 12K content. TouchDesigner actually helped us there to make 12K content in the usual sense. It's very hard to display, and for our work process in terms of editing and grading and so on, helped us a lot to really make this content workable for us, because 12K is an insane resolution, and we have 4 of those, so it's a lot of stuff. Anyhow, then with YFX, we also, for example, worked on this project. This was in Dubai. Sephora asked us to do for their client benefit. It's like a pop-up store, and we made an interactive installation in front of the shopping window there. We could not use normal sensors such as Kinect or something, because they don't work behind glass, especially thick glass. So we also created an AI system, which, you know, TensorFlow, which creates the skeleton and could read it out of normal webcam. And that way we could then control the, you know, could see the hands of the people. And the idea was basically, you can see here a mascara, which apparently in the product description is, you know, makes your eyelashes longer, and on the other side, it would make the eyelashes longer of this person here. Then we did with YFX together also Eisenthal, which was a pure art project. And this was actually a lovely way to work together. Is because Roy and Tim, they are really fantastic developers, and they you know, develop a lot of systems. And we were thinking together, okay, can you send me some patch, what they've already developed? And we took it a little bit further and made the visuals for it. And it was a pure art installation in Berlin at Art Wiesenthal. I don't know if any of you guys went there. They do it every year. It's a very nice thing to do. It's a very nice event. And so what YFX, you know, they developed the system of it, and we then, you know, developed the visual development, made it look like it is, and also added, you know, an interactive sound system with it. So wherever you move your hands, that would also, we did it together with Ableton, TDA, and then you create this sounds, which is a sort of connection to Vanishing Places, which was a series we did about nature and about sea life, which disappears because of you know, our problem of global warming, etc. Anyhow, so I just wanted to show you also some stuff what YFX does. YFX is our partners with Roy and Tim in Amsterdam, and they also do really amazing stuff. Also, I'm sure many of you have seen this, which they developed for Derivative. And I just wanted to show you one quick movie, which then we will come to Beams. YFX have been working in the pandemic in a club, which has been closed, obviously. And they created this experiential spaces. I think there were 8 different rooms. And one of them was then our showroom, which is now in Amsterdam, which we feature Beams. And I just showed you this. All right. Okay. I just heard from Stefan we need to move on. So okay. So now we come to Beams. In the pandemic, you know, we lost a lot of jobs and everything, and we were thinking a lot that we've been developing, you know, interactive installations and working with Kinect and TouchDesigner and all sorts of stuff, and we realized that there's so many developers like you guys who you know, make a lot of stuff, but in the end, you know, nobody sees it, and it ends up in the drawer, and you have these patches in your computer, and it would be a shame not to use it. So we thought, okay, after the pandemic is over, eventually, there will be events with a vengeance, and there probably won't be such big budgets for events. So we thought, let's develop a tool for event companies and for AV companies. For us, it's a B2B tool, and also for artists and developers to use their unused stuff to bring it, you know, to life. And we decided to create Beams, which we invite you dearly to also contribute your contents, which is now only TouchDesigner based at the moment. I'm going to show you one example of what we've already have in Amsterdam in this, what I just showed you in the video. So basically the idea is we have already existing TouchDesigner patches, which are interactive, which we then want to rent out for a very low price to event companies and you know, all sorts of people who we think might be interested in it. And at the same time, we would also like to create a community for everyone to contribute in this. And we see it very, very open and very transparent. So this is like 3 examples we already have. And we already have a website. I don't know if you can see that now. Can you see my screen still? Okay, right. So basically, the idea is to create this website, which we already did, and which is now still the call for artists. We are still in early Kinderschuhs, and we want to create this kind of, it's a kind of Netflix for interactive content. So the idea is that a client can choose content which will be on the library online and then just book it. And how it works is that we, you know, want to invite you guys to contribute, and then have a visualization, for example, like this. So if you would send us a content, then we would we have a visualizer, everything created. And for the clients, what they will see then in the end is, okay, how does this look like? What content do I want? I can see it this, or I want to have this kind of content, you know, a kind of painting or whatever. Not whatever, of course. You know, we try to make it the highest quality possible, but we want to kind of democratize interactive installations, because in our experience, what happened a lot is that you know, a client asks us, oh, we would love to have something like this, but we have to tell them, well, it's, you know, it's going to cost money to develop, it's going to cost money to put it on a screen. We have to hire beamers and you know, technical personnel and so on and so on. And what we try to do with the software is that we send the client, who is something like an AV company or something like event company, who already know that they have a client for an event, and they already have an AV company who knows how to set up a beamer and who knows how to set up Kinect and so on. And the idea is that we send them basically just the TouchDesigner patches, and then they can play it. So our idea is to rent out a content, for example, something like this you just see here. Oh, that's not it. Something like this. And that we have this to rent out for our pricing system at the moment is something like 700 euros. We would share this with the artist. So it would be for one evening, say 700 euros. We would keep 350, and the artist would get 350. However, our idea is to have already existing patches. If, for example, a client would like to have their logo in it and whatever, then this would be entirely up to the artist to do so. And the money would also go directly to the artist. We have nothing to do with it. So, if you say, okay, I need 5 days to have the nice colors of the clients and the logo, or God knows what, if they want to have it somehow customized, then that's entirely up to the artist. And, we just bring that work to the artist, basically. Yeah, so this is basically more or less Beams, and we're very excited. We started a call to artists just recently, about a few weeks ago, and we already have really nice contributors also. So some of the names: Starring Video, Joseph Bells, Nisat, David Santini, Velvet Carew, David Brown, Pablo Alpe, Vincent Jose. So we really try to get really good quality in there. So, and the way it works is that if you would like to contribute, you just send us a video of the patches you made, and then we will curate it on our side. And then if you, basically, if you can contribute, then we would send you a patch we made where you then integrate your work. It's not very complicated. It's not rocket science or anything, but we need to do this because we integrated the TOX file basically into the system, and then just upload it for the client. Exactly. Yeah, so this is pretty much the idea of Beams. I can just show you how it all started, really. This was in the pandemic, me starting to do TouchDesigner Connect patches. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice if you have something like this? These are just some rough examples. Where you could just have an interface where you could just choose different contents and do it on a quick basis. What's very important to us is that this is not something anything to really have something you already have in your work, and that's really important for us. And these are just rough examples. This is about 2 years old or something like this, but just to give me an idea of, where we started this. And then I talked to Tim and Roy from YFX, and this all developed into Beams, what it is right now. Okay, so I think this is pretty much it. And as you can see, there are some simple examples, some more elaborate ones, and so on. So yeah, is there any questions? Can you still hear me? I don't hear anything. That's correct. No, no, no. We have a system where you cannot enter any files at all. So your content is completely protected, and you also keep your IP totally. So you know, all we do is basically we connect you with the network of clients we have, basically, and to distribute your content. Yeah, so you don't, yeah, it's a frequently asked question, definitely, and you don't need to worry about, you know, somebody stealing your content and so on. Of course, we can see it, but we make contracts, of course, with every contributor, and we are also, you know, we don't want to steal any content whatsoever. All we want to do is bring out your work to, you know, to the public, basically, to everyone who wants to have it. And this idea really came out because we have a lot to do with event companies. And once I was in the meeting with an event company who, you know, presented their stuff to the client, you know, and they came, oh, okay, we have a DJ, we have lights, we have balloons which glow, we have a little phone booth which makes a phone booth disco and stuff like that, you know. And they're almost like car salesmen, you know, they like sell their portfolio, what they have. And we figured that this could be a very good contribution for people like this. On the other side, also to AV companies, because they also have their clients and they're always looking for something new and something interactive and something engaging for the audience. And that's why we did it, really, because we really think there's a huge potential for this. And especially because it's kind of a passive income, right? Because you have, you already created something, and you know, you can earn money basically not doing anything. The only work you have to do is to integrate it into our patch, which is, you know, so it works with our system, because what we send them to the client is something they cannot look into. That's why, you know, it creates a tox and then uploads it from there into the system, into the running system. And then we only have that, and the clients cannot look into anything at all. What they can do, of course, is to adjust the pixel size of the screen, or if it's an LED wall, or it's a projector, or God knows what. And that's something we prepared in the patch we made in the software. And so it's almost like a plug and play system. The idea is that we don't actually go anywhere at all to install it. It's the company, the event company who has the technical teams, or the AV company. And we, of course, will help them to set it up, but basically via video call. And that was the idea to, you know, to bring it in an easy plug and play system. That was our thing. The only thing what we may send to the client if they don't have it is a Kinect Azure. So at the moment, the system is based on Kinect 1.2 and Azure. So it's, you know, we can use any one. Azures are super hard to get at the moment. So most of the people have Kinect 2. I've been to Dubai in January at the expo, and I have not seen a conglomerate of Kinect 2s in my life. So many, every pavilion there had really like Kinect 2s, because I'm pretty sure that Azures, they're just not available at the moment out of many reasons. But it's mostly based on for Kinect Azure, but also V2. If somebody is still gonna V1, we also catered for that. So that's the beginning of it. And we will integrate more sensors in the future, such as whatever lead motion and RealSense, etc. And yeah, so that's our idea basically. And I'd love to, first of all, hear your opinion about it, if this is something cool or not. And yeah, if you have any questions, please go ahead. All right then. And yeah, and if then just go to beams.io, and if you send us an email, and we'll explain you everything else. There's also like tutorials on the way how to integrate the patch into our system. And as I said, it's not rocket science. It's pretty straightforward. And yeah, hope to see some more amazing work from you guys. Okay, thanks very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that I had to drag you away from the outside world, but we're coming to what I would call the crown jewel of every TouchDesigner Roundtable, and that is our live schalte to Markus Heckmann in Toronto. Markus is technical director at Derivative, and he always gives us some insights of the things that are coming. Also, he has an open ear for your suggestions, your questions, and whatever you want to ask or say to Derivative. Of course, Markus is also a good artist and a good friend, and so we're very happy to welcome him here. Hello, Markus.
Good evening. Hello. Very nice to see everybody there. This time from afar. Very nice to see that this is actually happening regularly again. So yeah, just a quick maybe a status report here from what we've been doing. We just published an official release candidate, so we're pretty close with going from experimental into the official release cycle. And so there's not much new features, and one of it's marked as a new feature, but basically it's just the engine comp is working again. So that's a good one, important. And the rest of it, you're going to see if you just check out the release page on the wiki. There's a lot of bug fixes surrounding the geo text comp and the text comp itself. So mainly polishing at the time, at the moment, not much new stuff. Something that I'm working on that I'm trying to get into official is, and that's what I'll show now a little bit, is a rebuild, a complete rebuild of the Particles GPU. That was something, maybe I'll share my screen. Share, and I hope you can see that now. This is the old Particles GPU here. It looked pretty messy, and it was built around just a pixel shader and then another GLSL material. And the problem with this one was that the GLSL material was using a geometry shader, which doesn't run on the Mac at all. The geometry shader was only there to allow billboarding. So billboarding basically being when all of the particles are, let's have a look at this. Where do I have that face camera? There, where all the particles are basically facing towards the camera, no matter where the camera is. So wherever I rotate, all these leaves are looking at you. And yeah, that was done in the geometry shader before. And as I said, problem is that this doesn't work on OS X. So in the main thing that we did in the new version here is that everything is being built now with a compute shader. So we're not using a pixel shader anymore. And that cleans up the network quite a bit already. So you kind of get around all of these feedback loops that were necessary before because compute shaders allow you read-write access to the textures. Hence, this looks quite a bit cleaner and allows for, well, maybe doesn't allow for, but we took the opportunity to add a bit more functionality, of which I'll go over now. First thing was that we're using the point generator now to as a source for, or as a source for the particles. And this is basically also just a shader in here, which generates point clouds with textures. So you can specify the number of points that should be in this shape. Here we have a rectangle. Other things we can have is a sphere or a box. So those are the volumes, or a torus. The torus, perhaps I should take down maybe this a little bit. Similar as sphere surface. So this is just generating the surface of a sphere here. There's also, I haven't exposed it yet, I gotta put this out. There's also the possibility to do a random sphere surface instead of a more regular one. Yeah, box tours, stuff like this, circle, which would be just a circular shape, disc, which would be filled circle, and a line. So a couple of those things. And as well, compared to the current point generator that's in the palette, this one also outputs the normals for the shape. And these normals then can be used as an initial velocity for your particles. Yeah, so theoretically, everything is kind of the same as you might have seen it before. You have an emitter, and I'll set that back to the rectangle here. And it's emitting at a certain rate. Again, you can choose between the, if you want to create particles per frame, or if you want to just input the total number of particles that should be available. I'll go back to per frame right now. Something also that we added, which wasn't possible before, is a speed parameter. So this is always nice with particle systems. You can basically just slow it down and, well, speed it up again. That can be a nice effect. And something else that I'm trying to do here is that you can attach the size to different things. So you have you can have a constant size for the particle that the particle is being created with. So let's say 50. You have a random size, so you have a range, and then random distribution between those two sizes. Or you can do this on age. So depending on the age of the particle, currently it's created with a size of 50, and then the older it gets, the smaller it is. And now, for this, there's also now a size lookup function. And the size lookup function is basically a chop, which allows you to kind of, yeah, just create, feed the whole system a lookup curve to it, which gives you a little bit more flexibility for these settings, be it age. So depending on the age of the particle, the size would be looked up from this table or from this chop here. And this is then basically, again, a lookup into the particle size minimum and maximum. Similarly, you can also attach this to velocity. So the faster these particles are going, it looks it up here. And there I'm not quite sure yet actually how to probably solve that, how to normalize the whole velocity range, because some particles might have a velocity of 1, others might have a velocity of 10. So I need to maybe add another parameter there. This is still in the works. Otherwise, yeah, something that maybe people didn't necessarily realize, the bounce on contact never really worked in the old particles GPU. It just inverted the velocity before. So basically a particle that, oh, look at this. Maybe I should move this a little bit more down. There. Yeah, so previously it would just bounce back into the same direction it came from, and now it does a proper bounce. It reflects properly off the surface. So this is something that was solved. And the other thing that I'm putting in here is a void bounce, which basically means it tries to, and this is not 100% yet because I have to make this also dependent of the velocity. But as soon as it comes close to the border, it tries to, yeah, avoid it basically. So those are things that are being added here. Another thing is, and this is something that I'm working on at the moment as we speak, basically, is that you have your default forces, you have your initial velocity that you can control, the external force, which would be something like gravity or wind. No, sorry, that's a, I always confuse that. But yeah, wind would be another force. You have a turbulence. The turbulence now doesn't rely anymore on the external noise component that was there, but we just added the noise shader as part of the whole geometry shader there. And then additionally to this, there is an input for there's an input for forces. So the only force that I currently have in here is a radial force. So when you have forces that have certain positions, and yeah, so if I increase here the amount for this force, we should see it somewhere. Let's see. Oh, there it seems to be. Let me just increase the amount. You can see it a little bit better. And let me set the size to constant to make that more clear. Let's have it come down there. So the nice thing is with this kind of a specifying forces like this means that you can have multiples of these and that you can control the position from the outside. So animate these forces as you like and add more than one if you want to do that. So let's do -10 here. I don't actually know where this one is. Oh, there it is. So what I'm trying to add now, what's still missing is what's available in the force sub. So we have these axial, vortex, and spiral forces. So those are the ones that are still being added in there. And in a chop that you're using as an input to this particle system, then you can define the position of the force radius. This is the force amount, and then also the force type. So you can have multiple forces of different types as an input to this whole particle system. Yeah, the rendering of this is done now purely with just instancing. And this is also how, if you can see here, currently it's not billboarding. It's rendering rectangles that are facing in one direction. But the rotation to face the camera is now also done, or the calculation for that is now also done in the compute shader. And hence, where do I have it? I think I have it currently under forces. If I set here face camera, then this is, yeah, it properly basically faces the camera wherever you are. But already done in the compute shader, not anymore on the rendering side. So this is going to run on all systems equally. Similarly, this now works with a constant material. You can also have a foam material or a line material as well. So the line material giving you these extra nice, let's just make this a little bit bigger here. And you see I still have to deal with all the alpha blending there, but that comes later. So basically the line material giving you these much nicer sprites that can be rendered for this particle system. Couple other things here I'm trying to do, or I'm trying to play with. What if we can set the size by external textures so that you just can use an input texture, like a noise, for example, right now to control the size of the particles, again, giving you more possibilities. As you also have the output of this, the positions current, oh, it's just a render, sorry, but you will have as an output here the positions, or you can fetch any other of these channels, velocity, rotation, color, or size from it. And then, for example, use another shader to do more with it, and then feed it back in as as an effector texture that then might be used for size, or the other one currently that I'm thinking to put in would be for the color. Maybe rotation would be also one of those parameters that would be useful to be controlled outside. The idea being that you could use components like the point field component that lets you create these position-based attributes basically for point clouds. And you could use this as an take the output, take the position output from the particle GPU, feed it into the point field, and feed it back into the particles GPU as something that then controls the size, giving you more abilities to control size. Lastly, something I'm contemplating currently, and I'm not sure yet how I want to do this or how to best do it, is to have your own functions in this whole thing. So instead of having to rewrite the shader here or write directly into the shader, I'm trying to include custom shader code that users can write and then can splice into this and call these functions from inside the particle system at a certain stage. So I'm not sure yet how to best organize this. If this is at a specific point in the shader stage that then this custom function gets called, or if we would have to build some sort of a UI so that we can reorder the processing of these values. That's yet to come. Yeah, but I hope that this will be in, or this has to be in official actually, so I have to hurry up with that. And yeah, I hope it gives a little bit more creative control over this particle system and provides a lot of fun. We do lose the preset component. We kind of gave up on that one. That was in the old particles GPU. That's something, yeah, that has to come later. Like we used to have here this this little preset system that where you could switch between different settings, but it was a little bit buggy and we didn't get to fix it. So I'm going to leave it out for now, but probably add something back in later to that. So now I rushed through this and it's only 10:19. Oh no. Are there any questions? Anything I can answer, or do you have any comments or remarks?
You said that there was a way to like control the forces, and I saw like a chop with different values.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
You said there could be multiple forces as well?
Yep. Yeah. So it's the simplest way that I could show it here is that I would have two constant chops here with the force position, radius, amount, the type of the force, and if necessary, the direction of the force. And if you join those together, then you can add multiple forces into the system. And the types of these forces will be limited to radial, vortex, spiral, and what's the last one? There's one more. I just have to look this up here. Axial force. Yeah. So it's 4 different force types that are additionally to the general, like to those forces that affect the whole system. These forces are more position-based.
Looking at this new design, I see some similarities between Unreal's Niagara, and my question is: did you take any ideas from there, or is there like a goal to reach that kind of a system here with particles GPU?
Yeah, that would be if. So I did play around with Niagara recently a bit, and certain ideas definitely came from there, like being able to control size by different effectors, essentially. The one thing that I liked about the system as well, but it requires a UI, and I'm not sure how quick I can add a UI to this, is that you can basically control what happens when in the shader, so that you can reorder when is the color affected, when is the a certain force being calculated or applied. So for now, I don't think I'm going to add a UI to it, but that's kind of the idea, that the main loop where you call all the different functions that calculate the different parts, that would be in a UI then, and allow for more manipulation there. And I guess the chaining, sorry, just the chaining that you have in Niagara as well would be possible here too, because since you are outputting, since we have access to all of the particle attributes as textures, you could then further work with it and yeah, add your own functions to it. Yep. That's it. That's all I have for now.
Do we have questions from the chat?
Nope.
Nope.
It's because Markus is explaining so well, nobody knows what to ask. Yeah, then Markus, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. It was great as always. Thank you all for coming. We can hang out here and socialize until say 11:30. Then we're gonna lock the studio, and then we have a table at the Omega Bar down the street. So nobody needs to go home sober if they don't want to. And maybe this is the time that I again repeat that everybody's really welcome to present something here. Very much looking forward for your proposals. Please just write me an email at info@the-Node-Institute or info@mx10.de or social media, whatever, you're gonna find me. And it can be anything, really open for everything. And yeah, thank you very much for coming. Looking forward to see you the next time, which is going to be in a month, roughly same time. Yeah, thank you, Wieland, for running the whole show from the back end. And that was it for the live streaming part. The rest is live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dave, I think it's like 45 to 50 minutes. It's